Hello, this is Tarregor. This video is a Twitch stream. I forgot to scroll down. That was not edited, so it's going to look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision of Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW, Circus Shadowlands, and the private servers Vanilla Plus and Turtle WoW. This is partially because this aims to fix Vanilla WoW's many problems first, and flesh it out and polish it second, and add new content third. This is part of a playlist of videos. Check this video's description for a link to the playlist. The document displayed is my vision of Classic Plus, and the document's version number is 1.5.15. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of World of Warcraft. If you just want to know about the general design direction of my vision of Classic Plus before you otherwise look into this, then watch the introductory video in this playlist, or read the document yourself and look at the list of major features. The link to the document is in my channel's About page. That and I do not have a team of people or however working with me to make an actual private server out of this. This is all pure design thus far, and it ain't done yet. These displayed changes made to the Molten core do not concern what drops from the Molten core, nor things such as NPC hit points, or NPC damage, or NPC pathfinding. These are covered in different parts of this document that I will be covering in different videos. However, it is still worth briefly mentioning that elite NPCs in general, and not just in raids, are going to hit a lot harder and have a lot more hit points. So your tanks that are not druids are going to need to actually use shields, or else they will, randomly get one-shotted from full hit points by a crit, even with defensive best in slot forever gear, full buffs, world buffs, and consumables, including the fucking hit point flask. And by the way, raids are going to be balanced around requiring pre-raid best in slot gear, bardetics, and full consumables and world buffs. And our buffs. Anyway, and as I mentioned in the video for general dungeon and raid changes, I plan to eventually revamp all the raid bosses to whichever raid bosses generally have different mechanics. By the way, when I said world buffs, do note that world buffs were changed to, you can only have one portable world buff and one non-portable world buff at a time, period. So don't worry too much about world buffs. You can just bring as many portable ones as you need, and you do not actually need a non-portable world buff, just the portable ones. Forgot to mention that part off the top of my head. Anyway, onto the actual changes being made to the Molten core. As a gold sync, Losa's Thriftwalker, after completing the relevant quest, will be changed to demand 3 runes of teleportation every time you try to teleport into the Molten core while you are alive. The other 2 will thematically be used for dead people. Shazra will cast an instant cast polymorph at its current target every 10 seconds while engaged. This will wipe the target's threat even after it wears off. This change is made to force raids to bring Bear Druid to the Molten core. And do note that Bear Druids are just outright immune. Do note that Druids are just outright immune to polymorph when they're shapeshifted, so yeah, you're gonna have to use a Bear Druid, or else you're gonna wipe. Majordormo Executus will be made immune to taunt, and upon being aggroed, he will go to the corner of his hill, facing the ramp that leads up to him, and refuse to move from that spot. If the person at the top of his threat table is not in melee range for 2 seconds, then he will cast instant cast spells that deal lethal amounts of damage on random members of the raid until the person at the top of his threat table is in melee range. By lethal amounts, I mean like ridiculous numbers like 10,000 or 20,000. Majordormo Executus will teleport the person at the top of his aggro table away from him every 16 seconds. These changes made to Majordormo Executus are to encourage people to bring a Bear Druid to the raid to act as one of the 4 main tanks. The other 2 being 2 Prot Warriors and 1 Enhanced Shaman, Tank Enhanced Shaman, or Prot Paladin, depending on your faction, of course. All players who zone into the Molten core while Cash of the Fire Lord is up will receive a debuff that prevents them from looting the chest, even if they were in the raid when the cash spawned. So, don't zone out after that cash spawns unless you don't want to get the loot from it. Zoning in includes being a ghost outside and then being resurrected into the raid next to the chest, as well as resurrecting by talking to the Thriftwalker or jumping through the window next to him. This serves to prevent players from selling the items into the chest to people that did not actually do the raid. Regular core hounds will respawn if not killed within 5 seconds of the rest of their pack, shortened from 15 seconds. As part of the... so you have to kill them all within 5 seconds instead of within 15 seconds. It's going to be tighter. Anyway, as part of the Molten core being retuned to be much harder than before, the raid's bosses will tentatively receive these buffs Generally, in order to make extra sure that the bosses are not trivialized, for example, by AoE and everything out and ignoring the mechanics like people in fucking in a vanilla classic. Anyway, I need water. Water. Lucifron. His ads will be constantly healed for 40,000 hit points per second until Lucifron dies, so they must be tanked until Lucifron dies, during which time they might mind control random players. The fire that Magmadar puts on the ground will hit 5 times harder than before, causing it to actually be of concern in the first place, at least without fire resistance gear. Gehennas will cast Inferno every 15 seconds. The Warlock spell, dealing 2,000 fire damage in a radius of 10 yards, stunning those hit for 2 seconds, and summoning a level 63 radially Infernal that must be banished or tanked until it dies. Gehennas has no limit on how many Infernals he can control at once. And each Infernal's Spellfire Shield, formerly Fire Shield, will tick for 500 fire damage, even while banished, and each Infernal active will grant Shazra an undispellable buff called Fell Shield for as long as the Infernal is active, banished or not, which reduces all damage taken by 25%, second up to 4 times. Of course, said Infernals will despawn if the raid wipes. If the boss exits. If the raid wipes. Gar. Whenever a Fire Sword or Gar dies, one of them or Gar will, after 10 seconds, instantly cast a resurrection spell on it, bringing it back to full hit points. This is a 10-second cooldown. And Gar, if applicable, will always be the first to be resurrected. Whenever a Fire Sword finds itself to be over 100 yards away from Gar, it will drop and ignore aggro, run back to Gar, explode, and then instantly resurrect itself. Every 20 to 80 seconds, Gar will target a random Fire Sworn and blow it up. Gar and his Fire Sworns cannot be looted until they are all simultaneously dead. Fire Sworns will not melee as hard as typical raid mobs, so it'll be possible for a Wrestle Shaman in pre-raid peasant slot gear to survive being critically stricken by one, for example. Of course, this assumes that he's going to be wearing all mail and using a shield, which he will be because that will be the optimal healing gear, not concerning the healer's defense. Nor his armor, which is part of his defense. Anyway, that'll be for reasons that I'll mention in another video. Anyway, Baron Gadon. All of his melee attacks will inflict his victim with a spell called Ignite Mana. A debuff called Ignite Mana. The debuff called Ignite Mana, excuse me. And the duration of Living Bomb will be reduced to 2 seconds. And the radius of Living Bomb will be increased by 10 yards. The raid is expected to wear fire resistance gear to fight that guy and to spread out, and raids will not be using a 2-hand enhancement shaman to tank him because Ignite Mana on melee hit. It's just not going to have any mana to tank him with. So you have to use a Prot Warrior or Feral Druid. You can't just cheese the boss by using the 2-hand shamans to tank him to get more threats than a 1-hand plus shield shaman. Shazra will have an 8-yard aura that deals 1,000 arcane damage per second. So you're not just going to get You're not going to just get all the melees in there and burn them down. You're going to fucking die if you try doing that shit. You're going to fucking wipe. Well, actually, no. That's the melee going to die, I guess. But they're just... Well, Actually, a question of melee is to do more damage by just hitting the guy for, like, I don't know, fucking 6 or 7 seconds with great arcane protection potions. Or if they deal more damage by just sitting back and flanking him with their ranged weapons. And bandaging people so that the healers have more fucking mana to heal people with. Anyway, Sulfuron Harbinger. Flamewalker Priest casts Holy Nova, and the Harbinger himself will use Thunderclap and Whirlwind. So, do not cluster them all together and AoE him down. You're gonna fucking die if you try doing that shit. Gold Magma Incinerators Magma Splash will hit 5 times harder, and the Courthounds will, every 20 seconds after initial aggro, breathe fire towards a random player within 100 yards, dealing 1,500 fire damage per hound in an 80-yard cone. And a Courthound will refuse to be more than 120 yards away from Goldbag, or however much it takes to prevent him from being kited away from the boss that he can't breathe on the raid. and his core house will deal 5 times more damage than before with blast rate, which might be changed to hit even harder. This will result in the core house not both being tanked by the same guy, and it will result in the raid actually wearing fire resistance gear for that fight. Majordomo Executives, Flamewalker Healers will be granted Holy Nova and will be made immune to all crowd control except Polymorph. So, don't cluster them together. Actually fucking kill them separately, like you're supposed to. Ragnaros himself. Wrath of Ragnaros will hit in a 360-degree radius and happen every 16 seconds. The knockback, if I recall correctly. And I wrote this a pretty long time ago. Any long bursts will happen twice as frequently and have an additional 10 yards added to their radiuses. It's actually called radii, that's a proper word for it. Furthermore, the Sense of Flame will be immune to all crowd control. Will be immune to crowd control like all raid bosses are, and his move called by Fire Be Purge will not target druids in cat and bear or banana bear form, so they don't have to worry about being targeted by shit or shapeshifted. Yeah, and that's all the changes I have thus far to make to the Molten Core. Thanks for watching.